We are back for the next chapter in the Menagerie. We are going to be on chapter 5. And I apologize for not getting as many chapters read the last couple of weeks. I've had so many meetings during the week that it's been kind of taking up a little more of my prep time. But hopefully next week we'll be back on track and I'll be able to get more chapters out to you during the week. But just to recap the end of chapter 4, I believe Logan, who finally met the creature that had been in his room and that was eating all this food about the town and in the school, turned out to be a griffin of some sort, so half bird, half lion, and he named him Squarp. I think that was the name, because I only said it like 900 times in the last few chapters. And Squarp was going to take Logan to where he lives, in the Menagerie. So that is where we left off. So we are going to read chapter 5. Where could they be? Zoe turned to look back at the empty street. They must be in town somewhere, but where are they all hiding? She and Blue had been all over Xanadu, and while they found lots of feathers, they hadn't spotted a single griffin cub. Or maybe Dad's right and they're all out in the wilderness by now. But she knew these cubs. She was sure they'd stay close to town, close to people, to familiar food, to all the interesting new smells they'd find outside of the menagerie. There was a sharp pain at the base of her neck, as if she'd been tensing her shoulders for too long. She tried rolling her head from side to side as they waited for the light to change. Her life was always crazy, but searching for missing griffin cubs was a whole new level of stressful, especially when everyone thought their escape was her fault. Can you guys imagine having to search your town for missing animals, and missing animals that are not super that are strange, that people might look at twice? You know, it's not your typical dog or cat running around the neighborhood. These are pretty special animals. I feel like I'd be pretty stressed too if I was Zoe. Would you guys be stressed out? Across the street, something drifted along the library steps. Blue, she cried, reaching over to grab his arm. Look! Definitely a feather, he said. It was dark gray blue, the color of one of the female griffin cubs. She's the one who likes books, Zoe said. She curls up in my lap and lets me read to her. Not a big fan of the Crucible, though. That one she tried to eat a couple of times. Really? Blue said. I kind of liked it. Me too, Zoe said absently, her mind on the griffin. Come on, let's check inside. They locked their bikes in the bike rack, and Zoe hurried into the library ahead of Blue. The librarians at the desk were calmly stamping books. She could see 3 little kids playing with the alphabet puzzles in the children's room. An old couple peered at one of the computer catalogs together, wearing matching confused frowns. Looks like good news, Blue said, coming up behind her. Nobody's screaming or running around in a panic. Yay, Zoe said. Or taking photos and uploading them instantly to the internet, Blue added. Okay, wow, I didn't think I could be more anxious, but now I am, said Zoe. Thanks for that. Want to head upstairs, he suggested. No one ever goes into the back corners of the nonfiction section. Maybe she's hiding there. She doesn't like nonfiction, Zoe said. She jabbed her beak right through my history book. And I'm pretty sure Mrs. Novak didn't buy my story about my bald eagle trying to steal it. She sighed. But okay, let's check. Another feather was lying on the second step of the stairs, so the griffin had definitely come inside. Zoe was about to swoop it up when she heard someone purr. Hey, Blue, from behind her. She knew that voice way too well. Zoe grabbed the feather and hid it behind her back as she turned around. Jasmine Sterling stood in the doorway of the teen room with the stack of 3 books propped on her hip. Her short-sleeved white Angora sweater glowed against her skin, and her long dark hair brushed the top of her skinny jeans. As usual, she wouldn't even look at Zoe. Hey, Jasmine, Blue answered. What you readin'? The Hunger Games, she said, glancing at her books. Jonathan said I'd like it. Zoe loved The Hunger Games. 6 months ago, she and Jasmine would have read it together and then stayed up all night talking about the movie and arguing about who was cuter, Peeta or Gale. But when you couldn't be friends with someone anymore and it was your own fault, you didn't get to be sad about all the things you'd never do together now. The stairs trembled under Zoe's sneakers. She backed up against the wall as Jasmine's dad came jogging down, his smile big and toothy, like it was in all the ads about him running for mayor. Had he seen the feather behind her back? He stopped at the step above her. Zoe Khan, he said, doing a little finger gun at her. At least he didn't say, we haven't seen you around lately anymore, like he had for the first 3 months. How's your sister? He asked instead, which was nearly as awkward. Enjoying college? He didn't wait for an answer. Jonathan loves it. We can barely get him on the phone between crew practice and a cappella rehearsals. Luckily, he runs out of clean laundry every few weeks, so he's home for the weekend. Zoe never knew what to say to Jasmine's parents, so she stuck with her usual response. That's great, Mr. Sterling. Dad, Jasmine said, you're being boring. Hello, Blue. Good to see you too. Mr. Sterling looked Blue up and down, as though Blue were a new wind energy factory he was thinking of buying. Mr. Sterling owned half the land surrounding Xanadu. He would have owned more if Zoe's grandparents hadn't long ago bought up the acres around the Menagerie. She wondered if he knew about Jasmine's crush, and if that was why he was always... She wondered if he knew about Jasmine's crush, and if that was why he always looked at Blue funny. Well, he didn't have to worry. After the Ruby Jonathan disaster, Zoe and Blue were forbidden to date anyone. Going upstairs? Mr. Sterling asked. You two can share our table. He beckoned to Jasmine, who rolled her eyes at Blue, like, aren't parents so embarrassing? No thanks, Zoe said. They couldn't prowl around upstairs with Jasmine and her dad watching their every move. And if they found the griffin, then what? Drag it yowling out of the library in front of everyone? They needed a better plan, and a Sterling-free zone. You sure? said Mr. Sterling. I just found the weirdest feather up there. I've got a book on wild birds in Wyoming, and I'm going to try to find out which one it comes from. Dad, Jasmine said, total yawn already. Zoe hoped she didn't look as queasy as she felt. Her phone buzzed. Grateful for the distraction, she crouched down, snuck the feather inside her backpack, and rummaged through it until she found the phone, a hand-me-down from Ruby when she got an iPhone for college. The text said, "Stop panicking." Zoe took a deep breath and glanced at Blue, who had already tucked his phone away again. His face was all innocence as he listened to Jasmine's story about how Marco Jimenez had eaten corn he'd brought from home today for lunch. He'd brought it home for lunch today, and wasn't that so weird because who didn't like pizza? There was also a text Zoe had missed from her brother. Get home quick, it said. Apparently, I have no idea how to feed a phoenix with the proper respect. Zoe deleted the text as fast as she could, frowning. Matthew was never careful enough about that stuff. What if someone stole her phone, or his? She'd have to delete the outgoing message from his phone later, too, since he would never do it, even if she reminded him 1,000,000 times. We gotta go, Blue, she said, but thanks, Mr. Sterling. Good luck with the bird ID, Blue said. Zoe wished she could ever be that casual. He nudged Jasmine. Let me know how that book is. I will, she said, smiling, as if he'd asked her to prom. Make sure your parents vote in November, Mr. Sterling beamed at them. Hey, I think I've got some campaign buttons in here. He reached into his jacket pockets. Dad, wouldn't it be easier just wouldn't it be easier to just shoot me instead of embarrassing me to death? Jasmine shoved her dad up the stairs ahead of her and fluttered her fingers in a goodbye wave to Blue. Poor Jasmine, Zoe thought as she followed Blue out the door. She knew how long Jasmine had liked Blue, but Blue was exactly that nice to every girl in school, and as far as Zoe knew, he didn't like any of them as more than friends. She stopped by her bike, biting her thumbnail. Should we go back in? She asked Blue. I don't want them to see us looking for that cub, but what if they find her themselves? Or what if she escapes before we get back? Then we'll deal with it, Blue said. Try to bring your freaking out down to an 8. I don't need my best friend going gray before she's 14. He punched her in the shoulder and bent to unlock his bike. Zoe glanced up and saw Jasmine and Mr. Sterling watching them from an upstairs window. They might be thinking about birds and Blue right now, but if they ever knew what was in the library with them, if anyone ever found out, her headache was back worse than ever. Please, if anyone out there is listening, she prayed, please, please help us get back those cubs. And that is the end of chapter 5. I will read chapter 6 for you guys next week. I hope you guys are enjoying the book. I think it's very interesting. I can't wait to see what else they have in the menagerie and what these types of animals they have and what's going on in this town. But I hope you guys, again, have a great weekend, and I will see you soon. Bye!